that your loved one that you call back, you wonder, her seat, his name was Robert. Eva's cousin that passed away. And for all of you individuals that you care for. Amen. Item number 3, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
This time I'd like to, is anybody out here for comment, please, Maria?
Yeah. Okay, everyone bear with me, I'm a really terrible public speaker, so I'm gonna put you all through this. My name is Patrick McDonald. Okay, now I'm on, all right. So my name is Patrick McDonald. I'm here today with Nueces Together. We're a nonprofit that was founded this time last year to help turn out the census in Nueces County, or rather get out the count in Nueces County. You know, every resident, whether they're a citizen or not, who is counted in the decennial census means basically $1,500 to $1,900 per person per year. That's typically divvied back out to governmental entities. So it's enormously important that everyone is counted in Robstown and Nueces County. Early on, we had Eva and Bertha join our Complete Count Committee this summer. And we are quickly approaching Census Day. The census officially starts on April 1st, but the soft launch of the census, when it actually goes online and is available on the telephone, is on March 13th. So last time around, Robstown didn't perform as well as it could have. It was a highly undercounted community in the 2010 decennial census, which has a direct impact particularly on school funding. So as I understand it, the TEA and others are allotting a lot of funds and receiving funds based on the census count. Children under 5 in particular are critically undercounted, particularly in suburban and rural areas. So we are having our first complete count, we're having a complete count committee meeting this Thursday. We've had them every month since November, and I'd love to see you all around. I'd like to now formally request that we make a full bona fide presentation next month from me or someone else from the community. But that's the shortest version. Do you, any questions or?
No, not at this time. We'll bring it back next month.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
But I would like to comment that there is a lot of information that's coming out, so we'll be working with our staff to make sure we get the word out to all of our parents in our community. I was also mentioning earlier that we had experienced the food drop for the very first time in our school district about a week and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
And that was incredible, the amount of people that were there. So that's gonna be an opportunity we're gonna tap into as well to make sure that we're getting flyers out and actually face to face, because every car that comes up, we'll get to say something about that as well. So thank you for coming out. Look forward for your presentation.
Excellent. And then just briefly, you know, we're juggling a lot of ideas, but census fairs at and around schools, we have resources in English and Spanish. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to get out the count in Robstown. So I'm happy to work with you guys in the future.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is superintendent celebrations.
Trustees, today, actually, we'll have a busy month next month with all of our students. But today what we have is Proud You're a Picker. So I'd like to have Kelsey come on up.
That's how I know I'm short. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Moreno. Always special to come before you and recognize the amazing things that our employees are doing here in our school district. Proud Your Picker recipients can be nominated by a student, also by a supervisor, by any member of the community. So we have some special ones this evening that we'll go ahead and share with you. Our first nomination reads, this Robstown ISD employee has worked diligently to provide services for a particular student, even though she has encountered many obstacles. She is never discouraged and does not give up. She not only presents the problems at hand during our meetings, but also makes sure she has several solutions ready to choose from. She is considerate of all parties involved. She does not ever give up and continues to look for ways and resources to service her students. Her efforts, cooperation, and collaboration go above and beyond. She is a tireless advocate and plays an active role in the success of our students. For her dedication, work ethic, and persistence, I nominate Joanna Smith for the Proud Your Picker Award. Congratulations, Ms. Smith.
The expression says it all.
And I'll share with you, Ms. Smith was nominated by somebody not even in her department. So your work is seen all around the district. Congratulations. And our next one, this individual was nominated by a student. So it's always very powerful to hear the words that our students are saying about their leaders. This man is an amazing teacher. Every day he gives 110% to his students and helps them through tough times. He gives opportunities to compete through his advanced programs, and he also helps anyone out. Whenever you need a pencil to take to your next class or a journal for math class, he will always help you out, and he will always find a way. He works hard and is ready to start the class period as soon as the first person walks into his class. He has produced numerous beautiful singers through his program, and he hopes for the best in competitions and in upcoming classes and hearing his students' gifted voices. He's a kind and helpful teacher that tries to bring out the best of everyone. He stays after school to work with students that simply just don't want to go home. He has opened many doors of opportunity for so many students like me, so this is why Mr. Gerardo Ledesma should receive the Proud Your Picker Award. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Ledesma.
I just have a strong voice. My coach's voice.
And Ms. Smith, if we could have you come forward one more time, we'll take a group photo.
For a little one.
What's the true lessons the same? That's it. That leaves the teachers again.
That's a or area people. Respect. Yeah. Well, you can, yeah, okay.
Good job.
Thanks, man, appreciate it.
Turn on your airdrop. You will.
Congratulations. Appreciate it.
We're gonna, information regarding the state price,
Trustees, with your permission, I'd like to go to the podium and so I can help to present. Oh, the next one's gonna be enrollment. It's gonna be the red folder. Correct. Mr. Gonzalez? Okay, trustees, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present to you. When we look at enrollment overall, what that does, it sends a message across our school district as far as really what the impact of our attendance. It also gives the impact of our membership year to year. But we also start to look for trends to see, not only again year to year, but also to see where we're progressing, our peaks and valleys throughout the school year as well. Today what I wanted to do is give you an overall sense of where we were last year compared to where we are this year, as far as based on the data, some of the action steps that we took to ensure that our school district continues to move forward. There's something I always share with all of our leaders here, and the first thing is to be a high-performing school district, we have to ensure that we have the right culture in place. And culture can mean many different things, but culture comes back to expectations, and expectations comes back to accountability. And when you look at all that together, it starts to really plant the seed as far as who we are, our identity, and how we're moving forward. And that ultimately, in the long run, has an impact on enrollment, membership, and the day-to-day operations of our kids attending school and sitting in our seats. So today I'll also briefly present to you some of the things that we refined from last year and previous years to this year based on data and information. So here, trustees, and I'm sorry, I'll have to look back, I can't read that over here. But this is just to give you a district-wide attendance report. What we looked at, we've gone through 3 full 6-week periods. So what this does, it gives you information as far as where is it that we're going, because we have to have an anchor of what we're targeting. So this year, what we said is that our goal would be 94.5%. So that means that every campus principal, every team member on their campuses, all have to come together to be able to contribute to the attainment of that 94.5%. Where you see on the first 6 weeks, we're at 92%. Now, and it has some decimals as well, but I've just rounded it to the 92%. Second 6 weeks was 92%, and then the third 6 weeks was at 91%. So you see right now, based on where we are, we're still falling short of attaining our goal for this specific school year. Now, here's another lens to look at it. So we looked at it the district-wide. Now we look at it and everyone's contribution as it pertains to reaching that 94.5%. So at Driscoll Elementary, right now, cumulative. That means the first, second, third 6 weeks. And remember, we're already in the beginning of the 4th 6 weeks, but this is all active data. Again, we're there at 92%. Last week, 92%. San Pedro, 93%. Ortiz was at 94%. Seal at 90%. Robson Early College High School at 88%. And then our Crossroads at 58%. Now, trustees, if you'll notice, just looking at this particular angle, when you look at going from Seal, Robson Early College High School, and Crossroads, that's where we also start to have a little bit of variance where we have to continue moving up, because if not, we're never going to reach that 94.5% as far as this year. But here's there's always 2 ways to look at that. The beauty of it is that it tells a story. And from that story that it tells us certain action steps that we have to take to continue to refine to make a difference. Now, the contribution, though, as a school district, because we don't work in isolation, although there's 7 schools, we can't work in isolation because we're never, ever gonna move forward as a school district, as one unit. So everybody, all of the elementaries know that at the elementary level, it's a little bit more attainable, I'm not gonna say easier, a little bit more attainable to increase their percentages, which then in the long run will help offset where we come up short at Crossroads and then at the Rockland College High School. So that's part of the strategy, that not only are we doing what we need to do at the high school level or secondary level, but that our teammates here at the lower level, as far as the primary or intermediate level, that they're working even harder because those children are a lot more attainable to get into the seat on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of that comes through the motivation that we provide. Trustees, also in your packet, you'll notice this report. This is a report that we designed for this school year that we've been using since the beginning of the school year. And what it does, it gets us all on the same playing field as far as knowing where we're going and why we're going where we're going. So let me assume nothing and let me just read through it, okay? Just to go through the report itself. So this particular report card, what it's telling us from day one is that there's something that we've learned last year and we call it the magic number. The magic number is the number that we cannot surpass. It's the very most that we can get to still attain our goal. So for example, if you notice that first cell here at the front, again, assuming nothing, is this particular one, and that's for our school district. So what we're saying here is that the goal in 3 years to get to 96%, 96.1%. But what was the goal for this year? 94.5%. So what that does is starts to lay the foundation, the steps that was when we move forward. Our magic number is this for a school district. If you go down to the bottom of that cell, it says less than 150 students. That's our magic number. What that says, if everybody contributes and we don't exceed 150 students a day, guess what's going to happen? We're going to meet our goal. So that gives us something to really start to narrow down to, and every campus and a contribution. So then you'll notice, then it gets down to every single campus and their contribution. If everybody does what they should be doing as far as attaining their magic number, or not exceeding that magic number, then we'll attain our goal. That means everybody is differentiated. Everyone has their place and the potential of what they can provide to be able to meet that. So this is something that we review, that we meet, that we hold so that we're able to attain our goals, but also gives direction as far as a whole school district, but as well as the campuses, individual campuses. Let me go, for example, San Pedro. Everyone's there in the second row, the very last cell. Okay, and I'm going to take play teacher now. So what is the goal in 3 years? 97.8%, right? Trustees, on this particular one. Our goal for this year, though, is 96.8%. That's our goal. That's our baby step heading towards that 97% within the 3-year period. What is our magic number?
6.
So less than 6 students. Our magic number is less than 6 students. So what that means, as soon as 8:15? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, once 8 o'clock ring, guess what our staff is doing right now? They're trying to see, okay, did we exceed the 6 or not? Because if we exceeded the 6 and we're already falling behind. But if we stay with 6 and below, that means we're on target. So let me jump to, but the average right now that they've had is 10. That's why that cell is red right now. Let me jump to another one. Let me jump to Ortiz, which is right next door. The goal in 3 years for Ortiz is 96.09. The goal for this year is 94.7%. What is their magic number? 20. They cannot exceed 20. So it's knowing those children by name and by need, who are within that group are our most chronic, our mid-level chronic, and our least chronic. What I mean by that is, which ones are the most frequent that are out? That way we get to know them by name and by need. And so the average there, the difference you see in that particular one, is that you see 19, so what's been happening at Ortiz? They're on target. And so what happens with Ortiz, they help to offset and contribute to where we come up short in other areas in our school district. Now, if we have another Ortiz in 2 or 3 other schools where we can start to build a little extra, I'm going to say this way, a little cushion, a little variance, then that'll help us offset the rest. But what this does again it starts to create a roadmap, but also aligns our language and aligns our practice and what we do across the 7 campuses. So here, what you'll notice is the data per campus, but cumulative for the 3 weeks. Now, here's what we know that works. It is not necessarily the focus on punitive, because the punitive is the day-to-day, mundane, what people expect. The psychology behind it is to turn it. The psychology behind that is to look at a proactive and positive action steps. So what I'm taking here, what I'm going to list is these are some general activities that campuses across the 7 campuses, initiatives that they're all doing, okay? So the first, and this is just an example, there's many, many more. So the first ones, we've all aligned our language, we have identified a magic number per campus, so that's done. We monitor daily attendance and make calls by 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock at the elementaries, and at the high school and the middle school, it's gonna be a little bit different, but it's gonna be within that 8 to 8:30 window where you start to look at that piece, and correct me, Mr. Gonzalez, if I'm wrong on some of these areas. Attendance recognition walls, okay? Why is that important? That means you're getting friendly competition between classrooms, but you're also getting friendly competition between departments. Whatever it may be, it's a concept of that. But notice, proactive and positive action steps versus the punitive. Perfect attendance incentives. Whatever it may be at the different campuses, because they all do something a little bit different, but that's the focus. It's a positive approach to recognizing and appreciating that you're in my class today, sitting in our seat, learning every single day. The other thing is attendance free time. So for example, this is one that I think I got from the high school, where by the end of the week, they have a group of kids that if they fall within a certain bracket of being in school on time and at school, then the last period, they also get a structured free time. It's not free time just to go. It's a structured free time where they get to be recognized and have the incentive there. Classroom recognition and treats. Again, you start to think about that for the younger students. March Madness, I think I picked that one from Driscoll. I think that's where they get into, that's just another theme and launch speech. That's where, I want to say that they start competing school against school on that particular one. Again, you just make it fun and compete. Lunch incentives, whether it be at, again, high school all the way to the elementary. Pickers, bucks for snacks. I can't remember where I got that one from. But I think it was Seal, actually. Seal on that one. Congratulatory phone calls. That one's a big one at Crossroads. Why? Because at Crossroads, we're at 58%. So there to turn the tide is about picking up a phone call, not for what's expected. It's going to be something punitive, but it's going to be something that's a positive. We're glad that he or she was here that day or that week. So this is another piece of information that I'd like to review with all of you. Mr. Gonzalez has been very instrumental in helping us map this out, but some of the feedback that I received from you trustees is that you wanted more accountability within the structures. So one of the things, and I'll put it on the table for what it is, last year, one of the things that I noticed, and when some of you were asking questions about how are we keeping track or data, basically it was a notebook, but a regular spiral binder. And when you opened it, again, and that was a system, not that it's wrong, but there's other ways to look at it as well. When we asked, for example, the question of how many door hangers or how many visits did you go out, basically it had index cards within the binder, but that person that was in charge of that binder knew the information. But that didn't mean that everyone else in the school district have access to that particular information. So all we did is refine that concept, and we identified 3 major areas. The first one being the home visits, being one that we start collecting data on. And we got a lot of room to grow. I'll tell you right now. The main thing is that we're starting to put the system in place to move forward, but we have a lot of room to grow still. Home visits, the second one, door hangers, because that was a specific question that I was asked last year about how do we know that there's door hangers? How do we know where they're going? How often? What is it? How are we accumulating that data? And then the last one, this is a new initiative that we started this year, because our system, and I mentioned it last year, our system, which is Skyward, provides this automatically. We just needed to activate it. So what we start to do is we took what we had in place already in our school district, yet we took it and refined it and actually refined it quite a bit to make it meet our standards for what we wanted for this coming school year and moving forward. But this doesn't mean that it's perfect yet, but this is how we continue to refine. So trustees, all of you, this have now a updated and refined attendance procedures manual, which again we started at the beginning of the school year. And we still were tweaking right at the beginning just to make sure that we had something solid. But now again, this aligns our language, aligns our practice, aligns our expectations across the school district and what we look at. The one thing I'd like for you to look at is on page 2. On page 2, what you'll find is you're going to see an aligned 7-step process. You'll see step 1 all the way to step 7 on page 3. So basically what this tells us is after correct me, Mr. Gonzalez, the third day or second or third day when we get a letter? The
third day.
The third absence in a row that you get, automatically now the system generates a letter. So whereas before you're kind of depending on is it going to happen or not, now it automatically generates it. And from there, we start to process it and we start to get the letter out.
What
And
system is this? Like
Skyward. Skyward's our own, that's like where we input PEMS, but there's a lot to Skyward that I think is still undiscovered. So this is something that I used to use my previous district, not through Skyward, but the concept of automatic generation of letters. Well, that's what this does. So it's sir, is it 3, 5,
3, 5, and 7.
7.
Yes, sir.
And
So
it
there's different
generates a
levels.
letter to who? Like, you send it out, or who sends it out?
So
Well, it would be to a certain student, it would be to a certain student, and once he reaches the threshold of 3 absences, it'll generate generate the first letter, which is a notification letter, which by law we need to send. On the 5th absence, it generates it again automatically, and that's the warning letter. And when he reaches the 7th absence, it would be the loss of credit letter, which is saying you're getting close to losing credit. If you get to 9, you have the chance to lose credit.
Is it a letter that's mailed, or is it a notification of the parent on Skyward? The letter that is physically mailed?
It's mailed. We put it in an envelope and it's mailed out.
So someone goes in there and updates letters? 'Cause like, I'm just trying to picture, how does it get printed? Is someone there and where they physically print the letters? Because it's not gonna just.
Yes,
print.
we click on the button and it'll generate all the letters that need to go out. And there's stuff in an envelope and
You
everything.
do it by student
if you
name.
go back to
Yes.
page 8, you'll get a sample of what that looks like.
In any of this process, do we have where the court is involved?
After the 7th step, and that's when we start filing truancy charges. And we try and work with the student as much as we can. Even going, sometimes over, because sometimes they do well and then they backtrack. And then they do well, then they're backtrack, and so we try and work with them as much as we can until we gotta kind of get a point across and we file his back.
So on page, that particular one is page 10, correct?
This is the third letter.
That's the third letter on page 10. So again, based on your feedback, trustees, and making something as far as more tangible, more accountable, on page 10, what you'll notice now, at least we have something that we can start tracking from as far as what's being generated out. Now, let's go back to culture, what I mentioned earlier. So there's a couple of things that we look at as far as leadership within our school district. Number one, in order to be a high-performing district, you have to have a certain right culture. And culture falls within an umbrella of many different things. But now when we say the culture of being in our schools, in our seats, that learning is important every single day, that's what we start to establish. So this starts to become a process. That's the first P. And I'll talk to you about the other 2 P's in a second, and then the last, which is a T. So the first is putting in systems and process in place. We have to have that, and that's not only the year 1 to year 2, what you're doing, instilling a process. That way that becomes a norm, and in our case, the norm of Robstown ISD, how we do business when it comes to attendance and membership as a whole. The following one after that, as we develop, starts to get to where we are today, is performance. As far as the accountability, how effective has it been and not. I was very honest here, if you'll notice, on attendance, what that means, literally, and I'll just say it. The first school, which is Driscoll, has sent out 499 letters. Whichever letter it may be, there's been 499 letters. Lodge Speech, there's been 369. San Pedro, 323. Ortiz is 387. We have Seal 400. Look at the high school though, 930. And then Crossroads 118. So the next question that you'd ask yourselves, and I would ask myself as far as being a superintendent, and then also to my team, so now what? So now we collected this information, now we know what we know as far as that, so now what? I can tell you right now is the next step that we're working on, refining this whole process, that right now, and working with Mr. Gonzalez too, is a 3-tier step, which basically I call the most chronic, the mid-level chronic, and the least chronic. So we have kids who are absent every day, but there's some that are gonna be absent more often than not. And there's some that are gonna really be on our target. So they're the most chronic, the mid-level chronic, and then the least chronic. So we've taken that whole group and even within themselves divided it, because then it becomes more attainable. It's a lot easier to keep up with 25 kids versus 100 kids that are out. And that's why it's important to put them in those particular levels. So for us, the next thing that I've charged Mr. Gonzalez with at this point is, I'd like to know, out of that 930 letters that were sent out, within the chronic list, how many was Jose Moreno? Maybe Jose Moreno got 30 of them. But maybe Mr. Gonzalez, who's one of my chronic lists, but maybe he only had 25 of them. And then maybe I have Mr. Lunoff, maybe he was the 15 mark. But the thing is, within that 930, I need to differentiate who's who and by how much. That's what's still missing within our next step of our program to move forward, to make sure that the accountability is pieced correctly.
Can I add something?
Yes, ma'am.
That's important with that, because it's good data to have, but out of those kids that are being challenged to go to school, you also need to target which ones are the strugglers, which ones are having problems learning. So it's not just good to identify who they are, identify what are they needing.
Right.
Because some of them stop coming to school because they've already felt like they can't achieve more, they get embarrassed, or their parents don't even support them, there's issues. And so we need to see beyond them not just showing up. So there's reasons beyond that. And so I think that's another target. I know it's a lot of work, but at some point, if we wanna see those numbers go down, we need to break it down.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's why to know those children by name and need, that tells us how are they performing at that point. Are they performing because they're not performing well in school, so they're not motivated to be in school? Or are there other needs that they have from home that gives us the opportunity to find that out? But until we start collecting this information, it's not, we're gonna be just assuming and guessing, we can't continue doing that system. So right now where we're at is a process stage that leads to performance, which is accountability. And here's the next P. The third P is people. So who are the people that are involved within the structures of these children's lives that aren't in school? I mean, even at Driscoll to have 499, although it's one of our bigger campuses, that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of letters that have gone out. So we need to identify within that 499, how many kids are we really talking about within that? Because it could be 30 kids that are causing the 499. But until we get to that level of it, now, here's one thing that I've told the staff is that, like I said, Skyward it has a lot of features. It's just like we had to learn about the letter feature within Skyward. That was another component that we trained and found out about. The next thing, I'm gonna make a huge assumption, but I can't imagine it wouldn't. There's filtration systems within it that will allow us to find out, okay, out of the 499, how many were out 25 days or more? How many were out 10 days or more? How many are out 5 days or more? Those are areas that we'll start looking at to make sure we can identify and narrow down the names of those children. And then the last part of this presentation, I wanted to also talk about membership, because membership is about sustainability. If you look at this, trustees, this particular form, this particular form is our own internal projections. Everyone get one of these? These are our own internal projections that Ms. Conway put together. But you'll notice if you go all the way to the third column on the left, back from 2011, 2012, and you'll go down and look at our enrollment. At that time, we were 3,262 students. But right now, we're at 2,760 some, I think 65 is where our target range is right now. But this at least will give you a story, it tells you some history. Go down to the very, very last percentage, cell at the bottom, it says percentage increase, way at the bottom, the last row. You'll notice that going across, 2012-13 was negative 5.4%. The loss of kids, loss of membership. And I'm just gonna go down the line. 2014, 2.9, 2015-16, 1.7. What are you seeing there? There's been a gradual decrease. Well, that means it's an improvement that we're keeping our kids. 2016-17, 1.6. 2017-18, 0.1. And look at 2018, 1.1. So you notice that, but look where it starts to turn the tide based on our projections. This year, remember, trustees, it was the first, because we were at, we gained, I believe at the beginning of the school year, we were at about 180 kids more this year. Now, the 180 kids more was because we dropped so drastically that we're able to regain some of those. But the goal is right now, not necessarily to increase, and let me clarify what I'm saying here. Not necessarily to increase just yet, but let's maintain where we're at instead of continuing to lose. That's the first step in getting it right. So if we're able to maintain and stay within that range and start to increase little by little, that's the way we know that our culture is making an impact on kids and the performance. So here, what you have is just a comparison from last year to this year. In the first 6 weeks, we had 2,707 kids. And this year, we're at 2,738 kids, the first 6 weeks. Second 6 weeks, 2,753. And this year, we're at 2,767, the second 6 weeks. And then we start getting around that Christmas time, that winter season. That's normally when if you're gonna have families that move, that's around the time you'll see that dip at that point, and our data shows that. Third 6 weeks is 2,745 last year. This year we're at 2,733. So here, that starts to tell us a story where we have to be even more alert because of that time of the year. Because you see the trend, we're exceeding. And then the third 6 weeks, we decreased versus increasing, okay? But again, that's raw data that gives us, that tells us a story, and that's something we can do something with at that point. Mr. Gonzalez, did you want to add anything else from the packet or the booklet itself?
Excuse me. Well, that the truancy department, along with the teachers, we've been meeting after every 6 weeks to get our information together, and we're working forward. It's a work in progress, and we are gonna do our best to get the attendance to slow down and get better, man. And like I said, we're always asking for information. The teachers, the principals always have ideas, and I think I delivered lollipops to San Pedro today as an incentive for the kids. So, I mean, we're on every end, we're trying to work hard to improve the attendance.
Questions, trustees?
On step 7, it states charges may be filed. Who makes that decision?
We usually communicate with the principals, and again, if there is an improvement in attendance or behaviors, we work with the student. We just don't, you reach the limit and that's it. We don't do that. We see if he's getting better, or the situation at home got better, and we work with the student. But some kids are just, they're not gonna come, they don't come, and once we kind of exhausted everything we can we file.
At what point do we decide that they're just not gonna come, and that it's just affecting the district? Because we do have some kids that are like that. So at what point do we just say, you keep trying, but.
Well, of course, what they ask of us and what the administrators ask of us is for us to exhaust every avenue. We contacted them, we went to the home, we did everything we could. We contacted the social workers, and we spoke to the counselors, and once we get to that point, of course, we speak to the administrators and the principals and see what they want to do.
But there is an attendance committee at every campus, and they're helped to be part of that decision making as well.
Yes.
So, Dr. Moreno, would it be I don't think it would fall under truancy, but when you identify that these kids there's problems, there's issues that are going on at home, and that's why they're not coming, and so it doesn't matter how much you try, if there's not a way that the district is gonna assist them or give them some kind of intervention or help, then obviously, you know, getting them just here that day doesn't carry very far, you know, but, so, at some point, you know, I know that you're working on it, but I'm just saying, at some point, whose responsibility will it be that someone is identifying those kids and someone actually has to? Would it be the social worker? Would it be counselors? Because obviously, it sounds like if we have that high number in the high school and then you go to all the numbers, there's some missing marks here.
Definitely,
And missing marks cannot be overlooked.
correct.
I don't think it just takes us to look at a report to see that. I think it takes leaders in the campus to be able to identify that. I don't know that anyone would have a lot of time to do that, but why don't we create coordinators? Someone who's gonna help truancy officers in every campus who's gonna, target those kids. Because if we don't, then, you know, every year you're just creating more work for him, you're creating more forms, creating more, you know, I just feel like we're missing the mark somehow.
I mean, I would say it's definitely, I mean, we have, and I like to refer to them as dropout prevention specialists versus truancy. Why? Truancy sounds negative. Dropout prevention specialist gives a different connotation of what that means. I think, ma'am, we have a lot of work to do still. We have a lot of work to do. When I see 930 there letters, and at this point today, I can't tell you exactly how they're tiered. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But that is our next step.
2019, right? 19, 20? We don't have nothing to compare with like last year. This is all this year?
No, that's last year and then this year. So the
Okay.
blue is last year and then this year.
Okay.
So, but what you see that dip in the third weeks, I'm not gonna say it's acceptable, but it's very normal across school districts. In December, the holidays, that's when families choose to move, that's when they're gonna move. One thing I did discover within this whole process as well for myself is that I get knocks on my door when kids are leaving. So I do an exit interview. But really what I started talking to Mr. Gonzalez about, and I've mentioned to a couple of my colleagues here, is that I kind of started picturing the pattern. My pattern has been more at the high school, where I get more of the visits, but I haven't gotten as many at the lower, let's say middle school or even intermediate or lower. So that's one thing I'll stress with my principals is where we have any child who's leaving our school district, for me to be able to conduct, at least get the opportunity to conduct an exit interview so I can find out from the parent what's working, what's not working, or are they moving just because of work or other family situations. Any other questions?
I'm happy to see this, because we didn't have anything like this before, right? You said it was just in a notebook?
Well, the raw data, we start collecting, yeah.
Right.
And so it morphed into what it is now.
Right, so as far as giving them more work, I don't think that was, I personally don't think that's the case. I think now we're just holding people accountable for putting that in, so we could get the data, because we couldn't get the data before, correct?
Correct,
It was just in a binary.
not for what I saw last year, and again, it's not that it's wrong, it's just that it's not accessible.
It wasn't accessible, right, and
Right.
now it is.
Now it's accessible.
It's accessible in the computer.
And
but
now it
not
goes through our
in the
main system, which is Skyward, there. Now, from Skyward, we still have other layers that we have to start getting the filters for, so because I know that we should be able to generate reports like this,
folder. Yeah,
but it's just a matter of getting that level of training, I guess, for those particular areas.
yeah. And then just implementing something that's gonna give them, you know, an improvement plan for them, because obviously they don't just need to improve coming to school, they need to improve something that's causing them not to come to school.
So this is a reversal of what I talked to Mr. Gonzalez about even today, because, and he'd given me this report a few weeks back, but one of the things, and it's not listed up here, but you see home visits, door hangers, attendance letters, there was another one called BIP, Behavior Improvement Plan. That's the last thing you want to look at it as, a behavior improvement plan. There's a behavior improvement plan that we have for discipline in schools, but that particular one was seen as for attendance. So no, that one, it has to be reversed, because if that's a face-to-face, then it's gotta be a proactive, positive, not with a negative title, because guess what? I'm already, as a student who's struggling, not in school, I'm skipping school, I'm tired of hearing the negative, give me something different.
That would be
That's part of the
your
psychology.
That would be your fourth P, Dr. Moreno, the performance improvement plan. Because obviously behavior, you're right, it is a negative tone, and then it affects
It does,
the approach.
which goes back to the culture.
But making it a performance improvement, performance doesn't just mean in grades, it means your attendance, your participation. What do you wanna get out of you coming to school? Do you wanna achieve a career? Do you want something better for your life? You know, somebody, we've talked about that,
Right.
you know, how you restore these kids and what are we doing to restore them? You know, we give them positives. We need people to help do that more. We're probably not doing it enough,
Right.
so.
We can always do more.
Yeah.
It's never gonna hurt kids, go in that direction. Thank you very much, trustees.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Go to item B, the ADID presentation.
Trustees, this is just a brief, what you have in front of you is this packet, and it's AVID. AVID is, the acronym for that is Advancement via Individual Determination. What I wanted to do is just give you the information for this, board meeting. You should have. And this is a new initiative that we are implementing this school year within our school system. And this targets junior high, not only high school, but junior high that feeds into high school. So what you do within this program, it cohorts a group of children, and those children are given, they go to what's called an AVID teacher. And then the AVID teacher, all he or she is doing is working with college preparation skills. How do I organize myself? How do I keep notes? How do I keep track of all of my homework, whatever it may be, anything that's related to preparing to be college ready by the time I'm within junior high and high school. Basically, what you're gonna have a child is, whether it's an AVID notebook, interactive notebooks, everybody does it the same way, they organize themselves the same way. Because what we can't do is assume that every child comes with that skill, right? I was one of those kids. If I would have had AVID, I would have been a lot more organized in the way I kept my items. It would have been a lot easier. But what this does is it also creates a seamless transition from 8th grade into high school, into our earliest college high school as well. So we had our first AVID visit from consultants this year, actually last week. They came and visited both the junior high and the high school. There is an AVID team also of teachers that are part of, that get trained. So they all receive feedback at the junior high and the high school. They help develop next steps for the next time that the consultant comes out to visit. And then we start to implement at that point. Our goal is that within 3 years we become an AVID demonstration site. That means, like I think in a few weeks we're going to go to Corpus Christi. And Corpus Christi, there's two, I believe it's a junior high, and then there's Cunningham Middle School. There's another one. Okay, and they're what's called demonstration sites. So if Corpus has demonstration sites, there's no reason Robstown can't have demonstration sites.
Is that grade level you're saying?
Well, for the program itself, for the junior high and for high school. Now, here's something else that we're considering looking at very, very closely, is right now, whether it's a focus of 8th grade, of course we would go 7th and 6th, but also looking at it because AVID is also for elementary, is starting at 5th grade. And that way 5th grade can then transition to junior high, and then junior high transition to high school, and you're just gonna have a group of kids that's just gonna continue to excel as we move forward. So again, I just wanna talk to you a little bit about that, but the next board meeting, I would like to have our middle school as well as high school principal presenting.
So it's a class,
They actually go through a class, but then look at it this way. That's where they get all of their education, their organization, everything that they need to be, the college readiness piece. But then we train all the content teachers as well, the core content. That way they have the same skills that is being reinforced within the classroom setting. To be a demonstration site, AVID will put certain parameters to when they can say, you know what, you're a model school, go to that school district to see that. Just like in Corpus, a bigger school district, there's only 2 campuses there. They're demonstrating.
It's gonna take that, make the time to get there.
To get it to where it's part of the culture, yes. So again, this is just for your information. Have any questions, please let us know before next meeting.
Go to item C.
Trustees, the next one is Robstown Early College High School agricultural presentation. So I'd like Ms. Hackney to come on up. And Ms. Hackney is going to give us a brief presentation. Just like, since we're not completely done yet, but we just went through our own livestock show and rodeo, our livestock show here within Robstown. I did ask her to come in and just give us a brief presentation as far as our summary of our experience this year. I forward it to you as well, Richard. Let me jump to the next one and then we'll come back to hers. So, okay, so the next one I'd like to, continue, sir. The next one is Empower Mentoring. So this week officially we will launch our Empower Mentoring program, and this is a district-wide initiative. Michelle, would you like to come on up, please? So trustees, what I'd like to do is just give you a quick little summary as far as our program. Now, when you look at that, this is going to be in the green folders. And I know that the last board meeting, actually I think all of you mentioned that you would love to participate in the program. So today, what we'll do is, I'm just going to give you a quick summary of the overall program, but Empower, which is an acronym that we came up with, means every mentor provides opportunities with endless results. So that'll be our branding for our school district, for our mentorship program. And what you'll notice, which we did not have, we didn't have a structured mentoring program, and now we do. So this, and Michelle's worked extremely, extremely hard in helping to get this all together. And now we have an official document. We're going to put just a little bit more polish on it, and this is it. This is going to be our application process that has everything. It'll have all our information. Let me just briefly go through it. The first page, which you'll notice, what is Empower? Who can be a mentor? What does it entail? Because all of this is going to end up going on our website as well. A letter, a standard letter that goes out to all the mentors. We also have certain ones in English and Spanish. It's going to tell us about our orientation. So if trustees, if you choose to be part of the mentorship program, what you would do is basically we like to say is adopt one student. Then the minimum that we ask is that you meet with them twice a month for 30 minutes at minimum each time. And then there is a training that all of you would go through, like we've already gone through our phase one. Basically, it's the majority of our administrators and some key staff that I know that are within our purview, or I don't want to say the word control, but that are employed during the day with us that would be able to have access to our mentors. Like I, for myself, I'm going to be a mentor at the DAP unit, and this week, what I'll have by Friday is I'll already have a student that I'm going to be assigned to, and I have to make contact with that student by the end of day Friday. And that'll officially start my part. And I'm just giving my example for myself. And that way then I can start to set up that schedule with that child at that point.
How do you make contact with the student? I understand like you're internal, but some of us are not. So how do we make contact?
We'll navigate that through Michelle, but the thing is, at that point, it'll be your first face-to-face handshake and interaction. That'll be your initial, but you've already gone through, everybody has to go through, that's not a school employee, because we've already gone through criminal background. You have to go through all that piece, because phase two starts to incorporate more community members within it at different levels as well. So phase one, trustees, just so you know, the whole purpose behind that is for us to work out the kinks, because those are our employees. And then phase two, that's where we start to incorporate more, like I said, outside community professionals and others to go in. And we started off at a pretty big goal. I think it was around 75 kids is what we targeted to try to get. So that's a big task for our first year, but I think we're well on our way to attaining that goal. Okay, anything, Michelle, that you'd like to add to it?
Well, just that this is the first time that this has ever happened. Oh, sorry. Good evening, members of the board, chairman, and Dr. Moreno, and everyone else. This is the first time that our ISD has had a mentoring program, so we're making history as all of this is being conducted. So I'm proud to say that. And other than that, I mean, we're just very eager to get it started, and principals have been extremely helpful in taking over the role on their campus by providing their own mentor teams where they created their lists. They're going to keep on creating or adding more
students depending on the need that they see on their campus. And that's very instrumental in them working and aligning themselves with me and our expectations for this program.
So trustees, any of you that would like to volunteer, there is an application in there. If you'd like to get that application, you can drop it off with Irma, and we'll get it to Ms. La Peña, and then
Right.
from there, we'll
Is it this
talk
one,
about.
that's the one that says volunteer information?
No,
It's the volunteer application that's right before that volunteer information.
Oh.
Mhm.
And I noticed that there is a letter to the parent,
Mhm.
so to identify that, to let them know that your child has been selected.
Mhm.
Now, what if the child doesn't want to participate, or the parent doesn't want the child to participate?
then that's why we're giving the parent that opportunity. Please let us know if we have their permission first.
And if I may add, not only, this is where again, the principals come in and do a huge part aside from their very heavy day. They come in and they bring in, once they see, this is the list of students that need to be mentored, right? Based on whatever criteria they feel they chose those students. They go ahead and they ask the student first. And then if the student says, we're ready, I'm ready to go, I do want to be mentored. So then that's when they bring in their families and mother, father, guardian, and they sit down. The principals have explained, because they've already done this already for the first round of students. They ask them, they tell them about the program and what do you feel, and I don't know, I know Ms. Trevino and everybody else here has already done this. What's your feedback on that?
It's secondary, it's starting at Seal Junior High and early college, and I had 13 students that I identified according to our mentors. So I was assigned 13 mentors. We had a list of students. We at Seal Junior High based our criteria on the social emotional aspect. Because our kids don't come to us in halves, they come to us in wholes, and I think the school district has done a good job trying to remove some of the barriers that our kids face, but I think this mentor program, really encouraging and being part of this student, not only in the grade that they are in now, but we'll follow them into high school. Once you're a mentor and you stay with the district, you will follow that child. And so, what I did is I contacted parents, and some of them met, some of them were over the phone, and some we had to send a truancy officer, because that's how important those kids were to us, that they got to be part of the program. So, my kids were very willing. They're kind of curious. They're asking, when's my mentor coming? So they know, they're very aware. And, it's a great, great initiative, and, we look forward to, seeing the fruits of that down the road, because, our kids deserve it. They deserve it. They deserve to have an advocate there with them at least twice a month, so.
And that advocate is definitely gonna work hard in building these relationships, inspiring personal growth for these students that need it so much at this time, and of course, to provide that stability in their lives. So that's what Empower is. That's how we're gonna be empowering our students, so.
I have a question. I know the mentor will get to know who the student will be. How will the student get to know who their mentor will be? Because it's also important to have a match. I mean, I know you don't match them by giving them too much information, but personality is the first thing,
And that's the greatest part right here with phase 1, because Empower Mentoring is a collaborative effort between district educators and community volunteers, which will eventually come in at the latter part of phase 2 and phase 3, right? So with them helping out with phase 1, they know, let's say student Richard, he is a technology savvy student, so let's get Mr. Richard Gonzalez to match with that student. And the beauty about this is that in order for someone to be an effective mentor, there's two things, right? One is to show up. And the second one, right, show up and give nothing but love, right? You're not gonna try to solve all of the students' problems, but what you're gonna do, you're gonna try to have that stability that they lack, you know, at home, or that they've never been given that chance or that opportunity. And what we love about this relationship that needs to be organic, right? It's not gonna be through a script, okay, here you go, Richard Gonzalez, this is what you're gonna tell your mentee for the first time. No, it's developmental versus prescriptive relationships. Developmental means it grows naturally, right? And prescriptive is you already come in with an agenda, and that's where it loses its fizz, its magic. So that's how it's gonna work. It's gonna be organic, it's gonna be natural, and whatever the student wants to talk about and share with their mentor, that's what they're gonna do. Megan?
Excuse me, they also filled out, Ms. Orona, they filled out an interest survey. So all our students that are participating in that filled out an interest survey. I met with a team of mentors on my campus last Wednesday, and we came together and I gave them the interest survey. They got to read about the child that they are going to mentor. And then I added, you know, any information that I felt that was important, you know, because we're all working, and then keeping in the lines of FERPA too, you know, that confidentiality. But for the most part, they filled out their little interest survey, and they were able to see that. And then we really, you know, paired up very carefully, you know, with the mentor to make sure that there was some common ground between the student and the mentor, so.
And in the packet, if you find, there's, where you find the Empower Mentee application, 2 of 2, you can, towards the latter part of the packet, this is for the mentee, and it's asking, why do you, the mentee, want to participate in a mentoring program? Number 2, why do you, the parent, right, want your child to participate in that mentoring program? So we put all of this information, and there's also an asset checklist as you move toward the packet. How to set goals, and whatever that mentor studies from that mentee packet is what the mentor is definitely gonna wanna start with, because it's gotta be natural. Any questions?
Thank you.
It's very well put together.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. And we're gonna keep on working hard, so.
All right.
Yes,
Thank
have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you. Trustees, the next one I'd like is to bring back the Ralph Early College High School agricultural presentation. All right, second.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Moreno. Just want to fill y'all in, like Dr. Moreno said, we just got finished with our county show. Give y'all a little bit of results on that, and then see what we have a little bit in the spring. So first, our lovely kids. This is our show team this year. We're missing a few, but that encompasses most of it. We had 2 Brownston Early College High School ladies represent us in the Nueces County Junior Livestock Show pageant contest. On the left, you see Jacqueline Ledma. She's a 10th grader, and she actually participated with Cotton Community 4-H, but of course, she's still one of ours. And then on the right, Savannah Flores, she's an 11th grader here at the high school. Okay, we won a Good Housekeeping Award this year. Just means that the students kept after their animals perfectly, kept their areas clean and nice and beautiful. This was for the Market Goat Division, as there's pictured, 4 of our students, and then 2 were missing. Okay, our show entries for this year for NCJLS: 17 market hogs, 6 market goats, 2 market lambs, market rabbits, a fryer rabbit, 2 entries, 3 breeding heifers. We had 8 shop projects and 31 homemaking projects.
We're growing.
We are, yes. And then, of course, we will be leaving to San Antonio this Friday for the Market Barrow Show. And we have 5 hogs going there. We did have 2 entries for breeding heifers that was supposed to be this week, but unfortunately the ladies weren't able to go for that. And then later in the spring in March, we have the Rio Grande Valley Livestock Show, which is actually during spring break. We have 6 breeding gilts, so we have 6 females going, and then 2 breeding heifers. So our results this year, I can see it lengthy. We had lots of market hogs. That's students' large interest. From last year this year, we have included breeding heifers. We had 3 ladies that did really, really well. We even had a reserve breed champion. So all these kids did amazing. Like Dr. Mono said, the program is growing, the kids are more interested, and we're seeing better results. So in the spring, like I said, we will be leaving to San Antonio this Friday. We'll be there through Tuesday. And then the Rio Grande Valley Show in March. And then we have career development events. The kids get to compete. We are training for livestock judging. My favorite part about the contest is that kids learn how to judge animals, not only, but they learn how to pick their own animals. So hopefully next year that they'll know what they're looking for in their animals. We also train for equine judging, which is horses. The kids love that. We have scholarships. We have degrees that we apply through the Texas FFA. And then we have more contests coming later in the spring.
The scholarships are for seniors or what?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, there's many scholarships for the kids through the FFA. That's it. I welcome any questions if y'all have any.
What grade level do they get to be in the FFA?
It's 2nd grade, but third grade. But our membership has an eligibility, so you have to either be a younger sibling of a high school member or of a high school employee.
Do your kids join in the photography?
Yes, so photography falls under the homemaking entries.
So what I would like to see is, like, for example, the hogs.
Mm-hmm.
How many hogs total did you have?
We had 17, but I think we ended up with 11 showing.
And that's what I would like to know, why only 11?
So over the Christmas break, because of the weather changes, we had a couple get sick. And so they didn't make weight. We actually took, I think it was 4 to the show, and we missed it by 1 pound, and they're very strict at the show, so. We missed a couple by the cutoff, and then some were just, they're kind of picky.
How can we miss it by 1 pound?
How
often do you weigh?
It's the scales. We weigh every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the cutoff is 225, and the kids were 224. And
how about the heifers? Because you had 3, right?
Heifers don't get weighed. They go by their birth date.
How did they do?
They did really well. Yeah, we had first. I'm sorry.
Did they place? And did
Yes.
They get sold?
So heifers don't get sold. It's a breeding program that the students participate in. So when they purchase the heifer, they go in knowing that it's a long-term project. So after the first year, they are expected to be bred, and then the following year shown with their offspring and so forth. So they don't actually make sale. They do get a premium on their placing, but they don't go to sale.
And the parents know this upfront?
Yes, ma'am.
Because there's guidelines, right? They're all provided.
Yes, ma'am.
So besides being the sibling or the daughter or the son or the child of the teacher, when can they start participating without any rules?
High school, freshman year. Yes, ma'am.
And is that normal?
You can participate also, you have to join their club, right?
I think it's 15.
Through 4-H, yes. Those were the bylaws that were created way before I came. The chapter was created in 1930, but we've kind of had it on and off with the chapter, and so when it started back up, whoever created those bylaws were what they made in place.
So it can vary from district to district then?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, but that's a general guideline. They either allow them across the board or they have a cutoff like we do.
It's a real good incentive for kids. I have a niece who's in Toledo, and she's been showing since last year, and she was a third grader. And she had nobody, no relatives up
Mhm.
there, and no teacher.
It's the
nobody.
junior FFA.
No, she's with Toledo.
Yeah, but it's
Yes,
junior
junior
FFA.
Okay, that's what it's called. Okay.
So do we don't have that junior FFA?
We do, but like I said, our membership, the guidelines, you have to be a younger
That's what
sibling.
the bylaws are saying?
Yes, ma'am.
But they can be revisited,
Yes, ma'am, they're always amendable.
So knowing that we have a growing program, what would you recommend as far as revisiting based on the needs of our program?
For the needs of the program, I would love to open it up, for younger members with no restriction. But as we saw this year with the space, it comes down to how much room do we have in the barn?
depending on the animal. right?
Yes, ma'am.
Animals.
Yeah, so like this year, we were maxed out in hogs, we even had to have them in the old barn outside. Same thing with lambs and goats, we were maxed out, so.
Yeah, there's a high possibility, trustees, those of you, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it or not, but the whole big show area in our barn here is the middle. Now, there's a whole wing that we might have to start opening some of that too, just because of, you know.
Both sides, right? Both sides, there's
Well,
areas to grow.
well, one on the main area, but the other one is more like a classroom area.
Yeah. There's room to grow.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should open it up.
I mean, it's a growing program. I mean, right now, Ms. Hackney has been the most stable.
If they don't meet a deadline, they won't.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the parents have to have the interest if they spend money.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's it gonna take to change the bylaws?
Regular meeting, somebody would have to just, move for the amendment.
Somebody who's responsible for.
The students would be.
Oh, the students?
Yes, ma'am.
The bylaws?
So, but if the students don't know, do you inform them so that way they know? That could be changed.
Absolutely.
Do you have like, national bylaws or something that they can compare with that they would be able to see? I think it'd be better to do it that way, because then they're just gonna target some areas that they wanna amend, but then they should have really visited. If it's that old, they need to probably look at updating it.
So I would have to contact the state office on when our current bylaws were put in place, as far as how old they are and when those were created. The state does provide a bylaw guideline, and that's what we base off of. The bylaws for any chapter around the state, are open to anybody. Each chapter has their own website, and they're all listed there, so we can compare to, different chapters.
Maybe at least to the
The junior active.
I'd give you that charge as far as really start thinking about that, and that way we can start to review what our options are.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do it before budget time.
Trustees, it's very likely we're gonna need a second teacher, very likely, so just.
I would love
This one should be pretty quick. Mr. Cabrera, come on up. And this is a brief band presentation. He's gonna give you just a couple updates. Like I said, we'll have kids here next month because there's still some competitions. But this particular one, I just wanted to just give you a quick little sense, something to dream about, reality where we are, something to dream about, and that way we get into budget season, we can maybe talk about it a little bit more. But if you go to the next slide, please, only the next slide, Richard, or whoever's. Just one click, please. One click. No, just one. Okay. That's our current trailer, okay? It's ribbed, it's, dented, it's old.
It's old.
It's ugly.
And we take that to other school districts, so.
Yes, we do, and it's very embarrassing.
Okay, luckily.
Is it sellable? Can we auction it?
I think we need to, whatever you, well, good afternoon. If we put it on auction, I don't think you'll get, yeah, they'll want it for free, so I think we need to keep it just to have it.
So let me say this. Before we go to the next slide, let me just preface by saying this. It's not the real thing, it's just an idea to imagine.
Okay, sir, let's see it.
And that'll come tomorrow. No.
What would this, and Nina right now is about to fall over, I think, but I already warned her.
Oh my God, I love it.
So that's a 40-footer.
Emotions.
44, sir.
Is it
A
trailer?
44.
Where's the trailer?
Yeah, it would be a gooseneck.
I know it does.
So you'll notice it, I mean, it says, it's like a gooseneck, right, on that one,
It
or?
would, I don't know.
It's up like a fifth wheel.
Yeah, it would be a gooseneck.
Yeah, so again, the trailer itself is just a concept, okay? There's gonna be different models, but what we wanted to show you is, on this one, I asked them, I said, what would the design look like? And that's really what you're seeing on this particular one, a mock-up of what a design would look like on a trailer for us. That's a 48 or 44 footer. But on the back, the tailgate that would fall, where you would load, that one, on the back of that, we'd have we're thinking about the My Choice as the emblem on the very back of that. But you'll notice that would be the side view on both sides as well.
Would that cover all our equipment in there for that,
The majority of it.
the majority?
Yes. Well, and I refer to, whenever we use props, sometimes they're bigger than that.
I know, those crops are getting crazy.
It's a good crazy.
Yes.
I love it, I love
So
it.
the other side would be the same?
Yes.
Yes.
And again, that's just a concept, but I just wanted to at least show you what we have now, what would be nice to dream towards. Something like this, trustees, in just a ballpark, please don't hold me to this, but with that type of 40 to 44 foot trailer and the design on everything, you're looking at about 40,000 or less.
40,000?
Let's do
Or
it.
less.
That's doable.
And again, that's a range, because if it goes up a little bit, I mean, we'll look at the different, those are things we also have to look at because of the amount is going out to do the proper procurement on it.
And since, Mr. Gabriel mentioned that not all the equipment was fit in here, what about fixing the other ones so that you can carry the props?
The only thing about the other one is ribbed. What I mean by that is,
Yeah, it's got the bumps on the side.
and it makes it
Not
look,
smooth.
it's really, this is gonna be a
Well, I'm
smooth,
not saying instead of, I'm saying in addition to.
Well, you see,
the design itself will be worth probably 3 or 4 times more than the trailer itself. Yeah, to do the work.
Just to call two items to carry all the equipment.
Well, see, currently we're using 2 Penske's. See, but the Penske's are 26 foot, this will be 44.
And don't you park those next to like the big Sherryland and all the missions?
We
I was there, so I was very embarrassed. And I was wearing the school board shirt. I was like this the whole time.
So it's a 40 foot,
44.
44.
and you said 40 to 44?
40 to 40, it's roughly with the design, because that design alone is a little over $8,000.
8,500.
That's the design itself, so.
We just went on much less. Let's do it.
So, that'd be something we'll look at this spring, really start bringing down the specs, showing you, that way trustees, we can look at our budgeting. I think Nina's okay right now. And then we'll go from there, but that'd be something we could definitely want to launch next.
Smiling, sir.
Yeah, she is.
She hasn't melted yet.
Do it.
Next year, we go back to contest, correct? For UIL?
Next year is our advancing year.
Okay.
Do you
Advanced.
get it out of state or?
No, I'm sorry. No, this would be manufactured in Victoria. Victoria. So, but next year is our, every 2 years, the bank has the opportunity to advance to state. And this coming fall will be our chance to.
It takes how long, sir? It takes a while, right? Because they manufacture them from the ground up.
I didn't ask, but I think it'll be done.
And some of these you could just buy it.
They already have the shell?
Okay.
Okay.
Now, where it would be a little bit more money too, and you have to really outline that. In addition is putting all the proper shelving on the inside.
shelving,
Yeah, that's a little bit more, but, we'll get you some ideas, but we just want to show you a concept of what it could look like.
Can the charger fit in
Big word?
it? Can the charger fit in it?
Your charger.
It fits in there, sir.
I don't mind driving around.
So it'd be hollow and something?
Right now, the price that we're looking at is just the
There.
truck, the trailer and the wrapping. We haven't considered, Sheldon, because that's, but I think that can be done.
What would pull this?
And right now, an F-250 would pull that one.
It would have to be a ton truck, 1 ton.
1 ton, which is an F-250 on.
And do we have that?
We do, but that's another investment we need to start thinking about whether it's, this year, even if it was a rental, this year, to pull it, it's one thing. But we need to start thinking about that, because we need to start renewing some of our white fleet.
And we would get a Raptor, the truck also, so it could match.
So you need a truck as well.
Well, in the future.
But what are you gonna have to put if we were?
Well, like I said, right, we have one, like we have one in ag, we have one, but we can also rent one if we
I
need
know, I
it.
heard that, but that doesn't make sense, really.
Well,
You're gonna roll
you-
it all the time.
if we need to take step by step, or, you know, it's a much, because a F-250 is gonna run you,
Very expensive.
yeah, about another 40 grand,
Probably get
50
it.
grand, depending on the type.
Mm-hmm.
So, but these are things to think about. Yeah, definitely do.
Very expensive.
That's a good dream and wish.
Just wanna let you know, you have a dream tonight about it, so.
I don't want it to be a dream.
The thing that you put rocks onto,
Yeah,
that's why you get what you get.
Sir, that's why it has concrete.
By the way, never change.
yeah, that would look sharp for a
I
district,
don't know
for sure.
about that, I can barely see it, looks like a.
Oh, it looks great. If you look over here,
Well, that's what we call our Van R. Our version of our R.
Your version? Oh,
Yes.
they have it on their hats,
Their
their shirts.
Are
That's a Banzar, that's a font that they use.
for the band.
So we wanna make that, known all over the state.
I don't like it.
We'll see.
It is different.
It is very different, it's not a regular or, it looks like a pea. My opinion.
Next item.
Next.
All right.
Next item.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
very much, brother.
And next month you'll be bringing our students to celebrate. Thank you.
Good night.
Good day.
Good evening. All right,
All right, Tris,
list of bills.
Nina?
I don't want to even present this. No, there's great news. If y'all remember last month, we approved the audit. We actually added over $1 million back into fund balance. That means that our revenue exceeded our expenses by over $1 million. So we were able to put that in a, whatever you want to call it. It's called fund balance. You can call it a savings account. You can call it a rainy day fund. The good news is, we are actually right now on track to exceed last year. So, don't spend it all in the band.
That's we spend more money than that.
Okay, your bills are on pages, good evening, board members and Mr. Lopez and Dr. Moreno. The bills are on pages 10 to 29. That's our January checks written. Everything except payroll. So if there's any questions, let me know. If not, page 32 is the normal financials that we always give. We're 5 months into the year, which is roughly 42%. We should be at about 42%. And you can see there are about 5 functions. That's the first column. Function 34, 36, 41, 52, and 53 are slightly over 42%. But mainly that's because we buy a lot of supplies, we fuel up for transportation. So I'm not at all concerned that we're slightly over the 42%. Also because June and July, most of these funds these functions won't even be utilized. So page 33, we're $1.6 million above last year in revenue, and only $500,000 above in expense. So like I said earlier, we're about $1 million ahead of last year at this time. Not to say that we're gonna add $2 million into fund balance at the end of this year, but we are tracking really well. Any questions?
Now, when are we gonna start spending money?
We're spending it. Slowly and steadily. That's the way I like it.
You understand how you like it.
That could be the first one, sir, right there. That's green.
I'm working on draft one of next year's budget, so we're really fixing to get into the 2021 budget season.
That'll be in April, right?
I think we'll probably be ready in March to show you some revenue projections and campus projections, and so I finished draft one, but nobody else has seen it yet.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a financials report as well, correct? Ms. Owen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Motivation.
Trustees, this is just, again, general reminders and information as far as the TASB Governance Camp, February 26th through the 29th in Galveston. Just please make sure that you talk to Irma if you have any questions or anything that still needs to be settled.
Well, where are we staying? Isn't that a problem right now? We don't have rooms? Right or wrong?
We have rooms, but they're gonna change.
It's a unique situation and makes no sense, but.
We scheduled them a while back, but because we have some cancellations, the way that this company forces is to cancel all the rooms. And then we start over again, so, but we'll be looking at that still.
If you make
tomorrow.
a change, because somebody's not going, that means they want you to cancel all of them, and now you gotta go start all over, like if they have rooms available.
That's just their process. We dealt with the same thing during
Midwinter.
Midwinter as well.
As long as we have a room, nice room.
When are we gonna know, Yvonne?
We're probably not gonna have room, we're already.
I mean, there is,
Oh, no.
I mean, there is,
There's rooms available.
there's rooms
The same
available.
place, same place?
No.
But she's not gonna cancel it yet. I think
No, she already canceled it.
No,
didn't
I
she?
haven't.
No.
She has until the 23rd to cancel them.
And once you cancel, you can't just call back right away? Cause they're gonna be open, right?
They don't turn them in right away, so we probably have to wait like a couple of days, and then somebody else can beat you, cause you don't know.
We'll still work on it
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we're working on it, it'll
We'll
work out,
tomorrow.
it'll work out, work out for them, so Midwinter.
No.
You talk to the supervisor of the supervisor.
No, ma'am.
No, we know that one, cause it's not a, it was more like a motel than a hotel.
It was Motel 6. It was nasty.
It was a bad experience.
Yeah.
And we're paying, good money even for that, so it's not fair.
We're not going there.
$50 is good money. I expect a clean room.
St. John,
Challenge.
traffic one.
All right, the next one is a school board spring workshop. Again, these are workshops that are offered yearly. This one, March 25th is in Kingsville. The school board spring workshop is listed in your, it looks yellow. It's a yellow page just for your information if you choose to go to that.
Is this something we have to go to?
No, this is just a choice if you
And,
choose to go.
what are the topics?
Do they provide you something, Edmund, in there?
Yeah, it's in there,
It's
it's in there.
the one in yellow.
The one in yellow. Page 35 or?
These are the ones we used
35.
to go to in the beginning, but then.
Okay, that's what I thought. So let me see if I'm on
Okay.
all right.
Can you go anywhere? Go ahead, sir.
And the next one is a schedule, trustees, I'd like to schedule a special call meeting on March the 2nd, which is on a Monday. Now, I'll get some feedback from you if you want to start off earlier if we can, it's up to you. But I'll send out some information on that particular one. If y'all want to do 5 o'clock, then we can narrow down that or. Yeah, there'll be some different topics that we'll be addressing, definitely.
Did you have those dates? We can look at our calendar.
March the
March
2nd.
2nd, so he needs to know the time, that we.
March the 2nd?
5:30.
5 o'clock so far, sound okay to y'all? Okay. Go 5 o'clock. And then also trustees, as we've given you the past few board meetings, always gonna be in green, there's some updates, just keep you in the loop on board items or things that's in the loop, okay? It's your general updates. Remember, these are always gonna be in green. And then we also included, just the one top of the website that has all the events for the schools and such as well. Okay? All right, sir.
We're on item number 6, the consent agenda item, approval of minutes and approval of budget amendment. Do I have a motion? Or recommendation for staff?
Trust,
On item 6.
yes, trustees, our most, ours to approve minutes and approve of budget amendments.
It's recommended to staff that we approve the minutes and budget amendments presented to the board with a motion. This one is, Jordana, is there a second? Second one, Ms. Garza, any questions? None of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous. Item 8, 7, and minutes of support action items.
Trustees, what we're asking to discuss and consider approval of contracts for E-rate 23. If we have any questions, we have Richard. And I know Richard was I'll just say he's a little bit embarrassed today. He's one of the couples here, but he's been at a golf tournament all day with our kids. So how many kids do we have today?
9 kids.
9 kids. Yeah. He said, sir, I gotta get my hair done properly, so.
Good evening, board president, board members, faculty, staff here. I'm here tonight seeking the board's approval for E-rate contracts for E-rate 23. I left you all a little packet on your area. This year, I left y'all some assessments in there just so y'all can see exactly how Dr. Moreno, myself, and Ms. Conway assessed the companies. And there was a little typo. I was rushing to get this work done today. On this paper here, the first 2 campuses are flip-flopped. So it should be the junior high on top and then Robert Driscoll right under. And we're looking at doing work at the junior high, only in the MDF. The junior high hasn't had any work done since it was built in 2007, right? 2006. So we're gonna try to do partial work there for this upcoming year. And then next year we'll apply again. And the reason we're doing partial is because we're only funded a percentage. So next year we're gonna get a bigger percentage. So trying to work with Nina and save the district money. We're gonna get what E-rate grants us this year and pay that percentage. And for the district, we're an 86% district, so we pay 14 cents on the dollar. So it's pretty significant amount of savings that we will get. So for every campus, if you look at it, we will pay everything up front, that amount that's on the bottom, but we'll get back over 150,000 back. Any questions?
So trustees, what I'm asking, we're asking is to consider approval of the contracts for E-rate 23.
The recommendation of staff that we accept the recommendation of E-rate 23. Do we have a motion? Second? Second on the vote. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous? Section 8. Section 9.
Trustees, we ask that you discuss and consider approval of adjustments to the 2019-2020 school calendar. Trustees, so this is something new that I'm bringing. I don't know if we'll be able to make this happen, but let me explain what we're doing. This is our current year calendar right now, the 2019-2020. One thing that we notice on this calendar right now is that we have our Del Mar kids who actually wouldn't get a spring break because of where our spring break was adopted on this particular calendar. So what I'm proposing is for you to give me as a pending item, if I'm able to find a viable option to be able to move that week up 1 week, then that would align to the local colleges, and that way our kids would actually that attend Del Mar or any of the other institutions, the opportunity to have their spring break. And what we have to have is a clear understanding here. What I'm thinking is we'll end up doing a poll with our employees, because what we have to understand is that some people may already have vacation plans. So we have to take a lot of those things in consideration as well, but we've already requested the numbers. I should have those numbers by tomorrow to find out exactly how many kids this would impact. And at that point, that would be part of the determining factor, but the only way that I think that I can even try to get a sense from all of our employees is to establish a certain percentage and do a poll across the district to see if that would be a viable option to bump it up. So that means instead of March 16th through the 20th, it's go 9th through the 13th. Now, let's just say, for instance, that we say, okay, you know what, it's a good percentage that would like to do it, we move it up, but then we'd also have to understand if some employees already have a vacation plan or something that they can't back out of, then I think we'd have to look at, see what we can do to work with those particular employees. But I don't know until at least try to get out there and get some info.
So when do you know, by what date?
No, tomorrow I'll know how many kids are actually, this would impact. That's number one, but number two is for us to come up with a way to poll all of our employees to see how much of an impact it would be, or if it's even viable
What
to
do
do
you
that.
need to do to change it? Nothing, just an administrative decision?
Well, I'm just, because y'all had already adopted this calendar, then that's why I'm bringing it, because just out of consideration is what I'm asking is consider approval of the adjustment pending that I'm able to find a viable option for moving up to March 9th through the 13th versus the 16th through the 20th. So there's no guarantee, but that'll allow me to at least do the research, and if we see that we do have an opportunity, it looks like it would be okay, and we'll adjust whatever we adjust for those few, then we do that. But that way I don't have to wait for another board meeting to do that, because it's coming around.
Do you know, would it impact our kids as far as taking them to and from? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, it's just because the way it sits now, basically, while
It's gonna be on an off week.
Right,
Yeah.
I know that, but
We're on spring break, they're still going to school.
I know that. My question is it gonna impact the kids that are they going to Del Mar?
Correct.
We're
Yeah.
not going to be able to transport them to Del Mar?
no, that would try to work out. It's just that they wouldn't have the week
Right.
off.
Right, so they wouldn't have a week.
The kids
Right.
wouldn't have a week.
The way it currently sits.
Okay.
So again, just to clarify, what I'm asking is for your approval of adjustment of the 2019-2020 pending a viable option, and that'll be, I'll have to do that poll or such.
What does it mean by makeup days with the asterisks?
That's like a bad weather day or something's unexpected that we have to cancel school.
Oh, I see.
Are you doing all three items at the same time or just?
No, sir, just the first one.
Okay. Any recommendations, sir?
My recommendation is to allow me to basically consider the approval of adjusting the 2019-2020 school year calendar pending that there's a viable option. And I would make that final determination at that point, based on the information I'll try to gather from our employees.
This recommendation would say that we approve the adjustment to the 2019-2020 school calendar. As presented by the superintendent, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Garza, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Arroyo, are there any questions?
The only question I have, Dr. Moreno, if there's no option, then is there some way that the district can find out whether somehow those kids can take their day off, but with the contacting Del Mar to work out some alternative for them to?
Oh, they won't.
They won't do it?
Normally, they run their schedule because they're a separate institution. So I really don't see that happening on their part.
Okay.
But we'll see at least what information I can gather from now and then.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, unanimous? Well, item B, sorry.
The next one is discuss and consider approval of the Robstown ISD 2020-2021 school calendar. So I'm gonna ask Ms. Ceballos to come on up, and now this is for next year's calendar. We have two options that our employees voted on.
We got it, our eyes and crossed our T's.
The spring break is where it should be.
Because when we look at calendars, we go by your word.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Moreno, in your packet, you should have, it's page 65. Begin on page 65, you do have the 2020-2021 district calendar results. And then after that, you have page 66. Okay, so mine's a little different then. So the next page, you have the calendar votes per campus for option 1 and option 2. And then after those 2 pages, you have the actual calendars for option 1 and option 2. Okay, so the development of the calendars begins with in the DIC, the District Education Improvement Council. The members of the council, there is a committee that is formed, and that committee, it's called the Calendar Committee. It is divided into 2 groups, and one group is tasked on developing option 1, and the other group is tasked on developing option 2. So we have 2 options. In addition to these pages that you have in your packet, on your area, you should also have a comparison of both calendar options, and that looks like this. This is a single sheet that was placed on your space there, and so this sheet here really summarizes the similarities and differences between both options. Begins with the instructional days and ends with the number of holidays per calendar option. So after those options are developed, then they are sent out to the campuses for voting. Each professional staff at the campuses and in the district vote for their choice, option 1 or option 2, and then we get a campus tally form indicating how the staff voted. So that's how those calendar votes are compiled by campus and then by district. So as you can see on page, or on the district calendar results, you can see that option 1 had 153 votes and option 2 had 46 votes.
One thing on option 1, trustees, and option 2, you'll notice, but look at October. You see October the 2nd? And basically what we'd like to do there is to ensure that at least at the beginning of the school year, after the first 6 weeks, that we have an opportunity for parents to actually have a face-to-face opportunity with our teachers to be able to meet, greet, and discuss the academic performance of their child during that first 6 weeks period. So that means it's going back to having a parent conference, official parent conference within our school district. And that's what would be different than other calendars you've seen before. Our recommendation is to approve the Robstown ISD 2020-2021 school calendar. Lorena, option 1. Option 1.
Recommendation from staff that we approve the OISD 2020-2021 school calendar is presented to the board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Move on, Ms. Garza, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second on Ms. Olana. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous? No item C, sir.
Item C is discuss and consider approval of Texas Academic Performance Report 2018-2019. Again, that was based on our hearing presentation. Yes, sir. Recommendations to consider the approval of the TAPER 2018-2019 report.
Recommendation from staff that we approve the TAPER report presented to us for 2018-2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Move, Mrs. Garza, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Olana. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous? Move on, item D, sir.
And item D, trustees, is to discuss and consider approval of maximum class size exemption waiver. I think we have one more waiver, Ms. Ceballos?
So in your packet, you have the request for the maximum class size exception state waiver, and we're asking today that you consider approving, it's actually 2 classrooms at Lots Beach Elementary. There are 2 first grade classrooms that are now at 23 students, so they are over by 1. And there's 2 of them, Lots Beach Elementary. Currently, we do have 3 first grade classrooms at Lots Beach. You had previously approved for 1 of the classrooms, and now the other 2 are at 23, which is past the 22, and so therefore we're bringing those 2 waivers for your approval tonight.
What grade is it?
First grade, first grade.
Recommendation, sir.
Our recommendation, sir, is to consider approval of the maximum class size waiver, exception waiver.
The recommendation from staff that we approve the maximum class size exception waiver. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moving Ms. Owen, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Garza. Any questions?
No complaints from the teachers?
It's really just 1 student. I mean, you couldn't possibly open up another classroom for students, so.
Any other thing? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, unanimous. We go to item number 9. Section capital 1.07 for Texas Zoning Code. Do I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Rodan. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Garza. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, unanimous. It is now 7:50, 10:47.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you, Devin.
Your other ten.
It is now, 8:46 or 8:45 P.M. I'd like to recommend from executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Arona, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rodan, questions? None, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. We go to item 10. Action item, sir.
Trustees, to discuss, consider approval of resignations, appointments, and terminations, as discussed in executive session.
There's a recommendation from staff that we approve the resignations, appointments, and terminations that was presented to the board. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Rodan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Garza. Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. We go to item 11, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Rodan, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Garza. Any questions? If not, it's all over.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you, trustees.